We have been saying it all week long. Michigan State absolutely needs to win this game. Well, so here are some reasons why they actually can win the game.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, how on earth are we all doing as we are within 24 hours of game day? Or, guys, hey, if you're listening to this on game day, if you're listening to this on the way to the tailgate, the game, whatever it is, thank you all so much for making Locked On Spartans part of your game day or game week routine. Please rate, review, subscribe, and also get ready for our chat with the one, the only Noah Eagle of NBC. That's right. If you're going to be at the game, you won't hear his voice. But if you're watching on TV on Saturday night, yeah, guys, it's the guy bringing you the play-by-play right there on NBC, joining Locked On Spartans to talk all things Spartans versus Eagles. But first, yeah, I'm going to hog the mic right now because we've made it a whole thing this week, and actually a lot of Spartan Nation seems to agree, whether it's the listeners, the viewers, people that have no idea what the show even is, just talking amongst themselves online, that this is a must-win game for Michigan State, even though it's a non-conference game, even though it's an unranked opponent. Guys, this is a big one for the trajectory of the program. Win? And yeah, you'd get to show your fan base that growth is actually happening under the Jonathan Smith regime. Okay? Lose? We'll get to that later, what the damage will be there. But guys, let's talk about the keys to the game here, how Michigan State can win. And let's add some context to it too, because the first key is, get your run game going on offense. No kidding. Of course, you always want your run game to happen, but we're going to add a lot of context, whether it be last week or last year, because, guys, let's talk about last year's game against Boston College, which might seem a little silly because the teams are, of course, a little different, but man, oh man, if you remember last season's game in Chestnut Hill, the run game was like completely non-existent last year, right? It was 35 pass plays against 28 called run plays last year for Michigan State, all in a game where the weather suggested that there was a tropical storm going on Boston College's campus. That was not a passing day, but it had to be because MSU couldn't run the ball for a lick. Now, why does MSU have to get the run game going on Saturday? Well, that's right. You tune into Locked On Spartans for the hard-hitting analysis, which the first reason would be, hey, the more rush yards you get, the more fun it's going to be. Okay, but we're a little more nuanced than that. If you can actually run the ball, especially on first down, hey, don't threaten me with a good time. Do it on second down. You can stay on schedule. Last year, guys, there were 9 instances where Michigan State was facing a third and long. Many of those because Michigan State couldn't even get the ball past the line of scrimmage on first down or second down. They were playing third and at least 8 yards to go 9 times last year. I think they only converted on 1, maybe even 2 of those. But when you open up the run game, you open up play action. Jack Velling talked about this. It also might go without saying, but guys, you look at last Friday's game, Aidan Chiles, 7 of 9, 88 yards last weekend on play action. It gets your tight ends involved. It's a great way for your speedy slot receivers that you got out of the portal to get into the mix in week 2. Because those were 2 positions that really didn't have a lot of fanfare last week. Jack Velling and Christian McCray, 3 combined targets on Friday night. Now, I suspected that, hey, Western Michigan, you don't want to unload everything against them. I think that with the play action, if you get the run game going, with the talent there, and also with Boston College's secondary being solid, keeping everything in front of them, this might be a good game for the play action to work, for the tight ends, for the slot receivers, all to have one big happy Saturday night party. Now, key number 2 to the game, you got to protect Aidan Chiles. You always want to protect your quarterback, no kidding, but this is what we are going to be looking at here because was that kind of nasty last week. 4 sacks given up against Western Michigan, 10 pressures total, and in those 10 pressures, Aidan Chiles just got off 5 passes. 2 of those passes were completed. Now, last year, Boston College, they blitzed just 12 times the entire game. Now, this Saturday, they might blitz 112 times because, they are no strangers to sending extra men to the line of scrimmage to get after the quarterback. Last week against Fordham, that's right, lowly old Fordham, they had 42 pass dropbacks. They blitzed on 19 of those guys. I think that the defensive coaches over at Boston College will see that, that's an offensive line that struggled. That was a quarterback that struggled against blitzing pressure. Well, we're just going to go ahead and dial it up all night. So what Michigan State needs to do, and they talked about this earlier in the week, and you get this with week one, especially when there was, 3 new starters on the offensive line last week. You got to get better at pre-snap identification. You have to get better at communicating set identification, and also for your quarterback. That's right. Chiles is not blameless here. You got to get ready to get rid of the ball quick on the hot routes, in the flats, to your wide receivers. So that is going to be massive. I expect a lot of blitzing pressure. If it is going to falter for Michigan State, you just go ahead and turn the game off at halftime if they're never going to get that off the ground. Now, it isn't all on the offense because, hey, there's 3 sides of football, right? There's offense, there's special teams, and there is defense. Guys, key number 3 to the game, get ready for a lot of short, intermediate throws from Dylan Lonergan, from Boston College. And your linebackers are going to be called on a lot in this game, I think. To have pass coverage in these short, intermediate routes, but also just the art of tackling, which is important in the game of football, which Michigan State did pretty well at last week. Now, luckily, we've been saying this all up and down off season. Hopefully you saw it last weekend like I did against Western Michigan, but this linebacker core is more athletic than where it was last year. They can hang a little bit better in pass coverage. Or let's say, Lewis Bond, the speedy guy, he catches a drag route. Hopefully you can wrangle him in before he breaks a 5-yard route into an 18-yard gain. Guys, I think the linebackers have been better for Michigan State, even in just one game, but on paper, it's more athletic. I also think, guys, over at that nickel spot, Aidan Chiles, he's going to have to be an important player this time. He's going to have to be physically imposing just like he was last week. He actually got a lot of credit from the coaching staff during media availability last week. But hey, big-bodied, he did really well in tackling, pass coverage. It's going to have to be more of that from Aidan Chiles, a guy that's been with this program for quite some time. And I don't have doubts that he can do it, but we just absolutely need to see it because, again, it is a lot of just get the ball out quick, identify the first guy open. Maybe it's the tight end, maybe it's a slot receiver, but a lot of this will fall on that nickel position. Or, God forbid, Boston College ever gets in the red zone on Saturday night. Just like last week against Fordham, 6'5" Reed Harris. That is a red zone matchup nightmare for opposing teams against Boston College. Look, Aidan Chiles, is he 6'5"? No. Is he physically maybe your best cover guy out there? Yeah, sure. Can he bother a guy like Reed Harris? You would hope so. It is going to be a big game for this nickel position. Aidan Chiles, hey, batter up. Keep it rolling from week one. Now, Malik Spencer, also, guys, you talk about a Jekyll and Hyde player, and that's not to say that he's just been so, horrible some days. He's been great other days, but it has been kind of a roller coaster for Malik Spencer here while he's been at Michigan State. Last week, I personally saw him on the high end of that roller coaster. I know it was just Western Michigan, but he was productive. 5 tackles, didn't miss any tackles. He was a mauler that entire night. So we've seen some games where, okay, that's 2-3 missed tackles that have turned into big plays. Malik Spencer, we need to see the good version. We need to see the wrapping up, the finishing tackles, Malik Spencer, which we know and we've seen is in there. But yeah, man, it's going to have to just be drag your guy down to the ground as soon as possible on defense. And the last thing, the last key, that can happen, guys. Stopping Boston College's run. And it can happen. You've heard me say the stats all week. I mean, Boston College had 108 rushing yards, okay, against Fordham. Okay, great. Awesome. Cool. 90 of those yards were after contact, meaning that they were getting hit often and hit early against an FCS team like Fordham. They got 2.9 yards per carry. And guys, I'll say it for, let's call it the 17th time this season, or counting back to the offseason. Boston College, they had 2 guys drafted to the NFL off that offensive line last year. A third guy was honorable mention, all ACC. He just got cut by the Patriots, but still borderline NFL talent. That is not nothing to replace all of that talent. Stop the run. Get Dylan Lonergan, who may or may not be injured, just put the game solely on his shoulders, which I think is a fine quarterback. But still, when you make them one-dimensional, you make a lot of teams in college football one-dimensional, it's going to make it a happier night, guys. Look, Michigan State, they need to win this game. I think Graham Couch earlier this week on this show said it best. This is as zoned in as Michigan State will have ever been under Jonathan Smith. They want to right their wrongs from last year. Call it revenge, call it redemption. I don't care what you call it, but this is going to be a focused team. Again, win. We're not going to throw a parade, but that is a good sign of progress. You lose predicated on like what actually happens in the game. Are you sloppy? Can you not block? Whatever it is. But if you're not taking care of an unranked Power 4 team at home, what on earth are we doing the rest of the season? There is no excuses, especially on the offensive side of the ball, to not make it happen this time around, guys. All right, we will be back with the one, the only Noah Eagle, and then at the end of the show, guys, 5 best bets. But first, that's right, guys, it's DoorDash time. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown last week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. So for our Spartans last week, we talked about Amari Kelly. We talked about Mekhi Frazier. Jordan Hall was a baller. Can we just talk about Ryan Eckley? Can I be a Big Ten podcast host and talk about our punter for a second here? Because 5 punts, 2 inside the 5-yard line, pinning Western Michigan either in the 1-yard line or 2-yard line, leading to that safety. Guys, I think we, maybe have forgotten or maybe not forgotten about if you're really dialed into Michigan State. It's nice to have one of the best punters, if not the best punters in the nation, right here on Michigan State's team, guys. So just like Ryan Eckley delivered for the Spartans, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season long, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period goes through November 18th, guys. And also, got to hear from our fine friends over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive. And that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every single detail. Mazda offers more safety than ever. It's won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Plus Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. You can feel it the moment you get behind the wheel, the smooth handling, intuitive controls, and standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. It's the small details that make the big plays, and just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle, guys. It's Mazda. Move and be moved. Yeah, yet again, guys, I'm as surprised as you are to see this gentleman join the show yet again. It is the voice of college football on NBC, the one, the only, Noah Eagle, back for his 3rd time on the show. Noah, does it feel like football season? I mean, silly question. You just broadcasted a game last week, but still, like, it's technically summer. Are we in the throes of it?
I mean, you can say it's technically summer, but I've now been in Michigan the last 2 weeks. And I mean, come kickoff last week, it was 62. And then by the end of the game, it was 54. And I look at Saturday's forecast and it looks like more of the same. So it feels like fall to me. I don't know how you feel mentally, physically, and emotionally, but for me, it feels like football.
Mentally, I do feel like this, and this isn't just the temperature because everyone knows I'm a dainty flower of a person. Like when it gets below 70, no, I can't do this.
Ultra soft, huh?
I'm the softest Midwestern guy there is, man. It's not good. But also mentally, I'm also halfway through the season because I've been saying it all week. This really feels like a must-win game coming up on Saturday. You get to show the world, hey, can you improve from where you were last year? A loss would do even more damage than a good that would come out of a win. Well, look, Noah, I mean, what is the number one storyline for you going into this game? You're the guy that paints the picture every Saturday with your words. What is the story going to be of Saturday evening?
No, I think you're right there, Matt. I think that this is a huge game for Michigan State on so many levels. Now, I don't know if I would call it a must-win as much as I would call it a mustn't lose. I think it's somewhere on that side where it's not, if you don't win this game, obviously you've got a lot of season left, and this is a team that does feel like it's gelling slowly but surely and improving slowly but surely in the process that Jonathan Smith has set forward. But I do think if you lose it, you kind of halt a lot of that positive momentum. And I know it's something you've talked about, but rightfully so. That does feel like the top story going into this game for the Spartans, certainly. And to a certain degree for Boston College as well, because they got off to a really fantastic start last year. The win over Florida State obviously had the final minute and a half, if you want to call it, win over Michigan State. And they were ranked for the first time since forever, basically. And so you have all those factors and you say, okay, they're in the right direction in year one under Bill O'Brien. And the way they finished the season was just not what they wanted to be. And so for both these teams, you go into this week and you say, man, a win could just do so much good for the vibes moving forward. It might mean nothing come November, and we look back and say, okay, this game was fairly inconsequential. But right now, for the positive momentum of what both these programs are trying to build, it just feels massive. And I do think it's going to be an uber competitive game. This just feels like, in terms of the talent on the field, in terms of the coaching staffs, it's very even. And we saw it last year in Chestnut Hill, and they're very similar teams from what they were a year ago. And so excited to see what both teams can put forward. Obviously, being in East Lansing is a huge positive for the Spartans, and we'll see if they can use the environment to their advantage.
And also a bonus that Michigan State has going for itself, which not a lot of college teams can say these days. They have a returning starting quarterback. Like, it's an anomaly in this day and age. But look, no, it goes without saying that the spotlight is always pretty bright on the quarterback. Like, who else are anyone watching when the offense takes the field? But doesn't it seem like it's just a touch brighter on Aidan Chiles for this game? I mean, look, it's his third year in college, second as a starter, as a former top 100 recruit. He's got the same offensive system he's always played in. It could be redemption or revenge, whatever word you want to use, from last year's game against Boston College. When he tossed 3 interceptions, it could have been a lot more than 3. So between just, hey, how close are you to your ceiling, and also how much have you grown from your turnover issues last year, it really seems like this is the brightest the lights have ever been on Aidan Chiles, even in a non-conference game against an unranked opponent. Am I being too hyperbolic here?
I'd say it's definitely in the realm. And I think the reason is because of the performance against this team last year. If he doesn't throw the 3 interceptions, Michigan State probably wins that game. They're going bowling last year in year one of Jonathan Smith. Everybody's saying, man, this is going to be a fantastic upward trajectory. And that one game, even though it was early in the season, changed a lot of eventual viewpoints. And same deal, obviously, with the Rutgers game at the end of the season. But I do think that for him, the way that he looked last week, and obviously at the fumble, and we could talk about that with the offensive line changes and who was in there and who wasn't in there more than anything. But didn't throw an interception, really kept the ball mostly out of harm's way, looked like a lot more of a poised quarterback. And I think that it's so easy to forget that he's still only 19 years old, doesn't turn 20 until next week. As a junior, that's not common for a guy who, and it's Bryce Underwood-esque. I know that nobody wants to hear that on Locked On Spartans, but it is. And Todd Blackledge and I were talking coming into this game, and Todd made the point, within the first 2 weeks, we'll have seen Bryce Underwood last week and now Aidan Chiles this week. And his quote was, I do not think we will see 2 more gifted quarterbacks, just raw physical ability, than Underwood and Chiles. And it's hard to argue with that, because I remember the game we had last year, Michigan State and Iowa. That was, I think, Aidan's best game of the season.
Certainly.
And you sit there and some of the plays that he made in that game, where he could break, contain, keep his eyes downfield, perfect placement, perfect touch on the football. This guy's got everything that he needs. And he really reminded me a lot of Cam Ward when I saw him at Washington State his first year. It was super similar in the sense that Cam, you could see the gifts were there. But man, there were a couple plays where instead of saying, how did he do that? You were saying, why did he do that? And that's where I think Aidan was a year ago. And so we saw last week, he may have taken that step. This is the chance to truly prove it. This is the chance to silence a lot of those critics. And then if you do come out and ball out in this game, and you get a win, whether it's convincing or not, but more than anything, you take care of the football, you play high IQ quarterback, which is what he's talked at length about now for months. I do think that the pressure is a little bit now off of him, where he can play his game. He can play looser. He doesn't have to think as much about those turnovers that were looming on the back of his head. And that's a big deal for a young guy who's still just trying to solidify his position of what he looks like moving forward. So, yeah, a huge spotlight on him. I don't know if it's as big as every game last year, but it's hard to argue against that fact at the same time. So exciting to see what he's going to look like in the bright lights of prime time.
Hey, Locked On Spartans fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Well, just stop doing that, please. Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. Use my limited time promo code FOOTBALL and get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you guys are already using. And I get it. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it is totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. You get to decide, guys. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app right now using my limited time promo code FOOTBALL for a limited time 25-cent per gallon bonus. That is promo code FOOTBALL. Offer may vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Also, guys, America's #1 sports betting app, FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure that you are ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, seriously, if you're a new customer, listen to this. New customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, guys. We're talking futures, we're talking the props, we're talking the game lines, we're talking the same game parlays, whatever it is you want to use with that $300. Guys, go ahead and spend it on it. It makes game days so much more exciting, whether it's college football Saturdays, NFL Sundays, whatever it is. Because, look, NFL, I'm not a fantasy guy necessarily, but I do love their player props, like just opening up for week 1. Yeah, I will be all over the Jameson Williams overs, whether it's receptions, yards. I think he's going to have a hot start to the season for my Lions. Or, hey, if you're just a college football fan, we'll get to our best bets here in a little bit. Don't you worry. But right now, Michigan State favored by 4.5. The over-under, which we could be picking here, 46.5 at the time of recording. So are you guys ready to play? Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. Again, guys, it's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. That's right. I've been so shook about this game this Saturday that my mind hasn't even allowed itself to enter into a world where we win decisively and Aidan Chiles balls out 4 touchdowns. Another, if he does have an incredible game, I'm going to be talking crazy on here next week because we're going to see it all materialize. Just like you said, he has the physical tools. He came in with the pedigree. He has the continuity, the coaching staff. He's got 1, if not 2, NFL wide receivers. And kind of going off that, when you're watching the Western game last week, you're getting ready for this upcoming game here. Could be the receivers, could be anywhere else in the field. What other player or players really caught your eye as that's different than last year's Michigan State team? That's going to be nice to Sparty over there.
Yeah, I think you alluded to it. It's got to be Amari Kelly. The guy just looks so good.
Stunning.
And to have a legit option next to Nick Marsh, just didn't quite have that on the outside last year. And look, there were Montori Foster is a veteran and had been around, played a lot of football. I get that. But this is different, right? This is a guy who looks like he can win consistently, who can get open consistently, who's reliable, who also has played a lot of football as a veteran. And so you pair those two together, and it can be real dangerous. And, of course, look, if Jack Villing gets going, we know the connection that he and Aidan already have dating back to Oregon State, the type of weapon that he can be. That's a big deal. And the two backs impressed. We saw them sparingly. They both got, I think, at least a carry in that Iowa game last year. Frazier at least 1. And I do think that Tullis had maybe 1 or 2. So we saw them sparingly. But for them to actually now take the reins and look good. And a lot of credit to the offensive line for the way they blocked, especially in that first half. They took full advantage of the holes that were available to them. They're going to need to run the football well against BC to set up play action, set up the pass. But to have 2 guys that you can rely on now consistently winning on the outside, that's a game changer for this team and could mean a huge difference in what the season's going to look like now overall, just having belief in somebody being a consistent option.
That's what we started the show with. As bright as the lights are on Aidan Chiles, this run game needs to show out. Maybe it's because I was a little scarred from last year's game because I've been saying the stat. God, last season, this whole week, Michigan State had more yards per carry after contact than they did yards per carry in this game last year against Boston College. That's how often they were getting popped behind the line of scrimmage before the running backs could even digest they had the ball in their hands. But hey, setting up to play action too. Like, these are all bonuses that could happen if you run the ball like you did against Western last week. Different test, obviously, but hey, we actually saw lanes, holes. It was unbelievable. But enough about Michigan State here, because there is another team in this game, of course, Boston College. Now, Dylan Lonergan, really outstanding performance in week 1 against Fordham, 26 of 34, 4 touchdowns. He just yawned through. But outside of him, the main name of Boston College, the quarterback, of course. Who else should I be scared of? Who else should make me not sleep this Friday night here, Noah?
Yeah, well, I mean, Boston College actually had the opposite problem, I should say, where Michigan State felt good about their run game coming off that week 1 victory over Western, and Boston College, for all the success they had in the passing game, could not run the football. They averaged 3 yards per carry against Fordham, who's an FCS team and not a great one at that. So There's a little reason for concern. They've really focused, and talking to Bill O'Brien, on remaining aggressive and trying to establish the run. That's a big deal for them coming this week. Not going to be simple. It's a tougher test against this Michigan State defense, and now a little more familiarity with Joe Rossi. So we'll see what that looks like. But I'd say it would be wrong if I didn't say Lewis Bonds, who obviously caught the game-winning touchdown last year in this matchup and had 11 catches in week 1 and is just, it feels like, inching closer and closer to Zay Flowers' program records. Former roommate of his at Boston College. So
gotcha.
That's a nice little connection. And we talked to Lewis, and he's an impressive guy. Another one he's just been around. He's been here for a couple regimes now. He's stuck it out. He loves Boston College. He wants to finish his career strong, and he's confident. But at the same time, I think because that one's obvious to me. He's been around long enough that you know
forever.
Yeah. I think the guys that stick out to me are on the defensive side, because they've got so much leadership, and they have 3 captains in particular that I feel like are going to make a big impact in the game. That's Bam Crouch, which is one of the just elite names in college football.
Amazing.
Crouch is awesome. Our number 1 name over the last couple of years was former Syracuse, now Chargers linebacker Marlo Wax. But Bam Crouch is giving him a run for his money. Yeah.
Goes hard. That goes hard. I like that one.
That's pretty good. I would say edge rusher Quintavious Hutchins is another guy that he's had productive seasons, including last year, and he's come back now looking to fill a void at that spot that was gone to the NFL, and they expect huge things out of him. And then the last guy I'll bring up is KP Price, defensive back, captain assistant junior. And I thought it was interesting. We had a chance to talk to him too, and what he said to us, I asked him, I was like, dude, why'd you end up at Boston College? You're from Baltimore. You went to St. Francis, which is now a football hotbed. All your teammates are playing SEC football or Big Ten football. Like, why Boston College? And he goes, well, 1, my mom and grandma were really big on academics, and they were tough on me. And so they said, you got to go to a good school. He said, but 2, more importantly, potentially, or 1 and 1A, he called it. He said, I wanted to play impact football as a freshman. I said, well, why didn't you leave? He goes, because I want to leave a legacy. And his voice, I've got a deep voice. He made me sound like Mickey Mouse. So that's intimidating enough. Yeah. And he's talking a little trash. I think you're going to feel it. So those are the 3 guys that I'd be more concerned with, because especially as we talked about, if this game's going to be a big spotlight on Aidan Chiles, those are the 3 guys that are really going to be hunting him. You've got 1 off the edge, 1 at linebacker, and 1 in the defensive backfield. They're going to have their eyes on him essentially the entire game. And they know the key to making sure that it's going to be difficult for Aidan is making sure you keep him in the pocket. That's their job at the end of the day. Not an easy task, but they're confident that they're up for it. So we'll see if they're correct.
Not only have you been generous enough to join this show now 3 times, but you've also brought up this show twice on NBC, Peacock, football season, basketball season. Last football season, you turned my phone nuclear by saying, hey, Cal Halliday doesn't wear gloves. We learned that on Locked On Spartans. And then basketball season, we dropped a little nugget of information that Jace Richardson, son of Jason Richardson.
Yeah, Robbie Hummel was stunned at that one.
He actually might have been. I don't know. Another friend of the program, might I say. I mean, we're really in bed with NBC here. This is a great relationship we got going on. But no, I do have another stat here. And of course, not telling you to do your job and saying, hey, you must bring us up. But this isn't like an obvious one. This isn't one that's said every week. This actually has some substance. I've actually come here with material, Noah.
Okay.
So, and it's not one that Michigan State fans will like, but it is certainly a thing here. Noah, did you know that under Jonathan Smith, Michigan State has yet to outscore an FBS team in the second half? Now, last year, hey, they got the better of Prairie View A&M. They beat them 13-0 in the second half. That's right, Panthers. Go eat that. And then they tied Maryland in the second half, even though they won. They tied Oregon, and then they tied Iowa, that game that you were at. But they have yet to straight up outscore an FBS team, not even FAU, not even Western. That is like becoming an unofficial thing now. So if you just want to go ahead and lead into halftime with that, come out of the halftime show with that nugget, by all means, steal that one. But is that something? Is that nothing? Because, wow, 12 games of sample size seems like that's something.
It is and it isn't at the same time, I think.
Okay.
You know, year one of a coach in a new program, you have to establish everything. You most of the time, I tend to throw stats out from the year one of a coach, unless it's an anomaly, which happens. You know, Lincoln Riley goes to USC. They dominated that first year with Caleb Williams. Get all that. That's very possible. But I give them a chance to get all their guys in, get their system rolling. Then we can start to judge. But if it happens again, you had my curiosity. Now you have my attention.
See, there we go. See, it's a two-way street. Not only is he bringing curiosity and attention, but hey, we like to do it every once in a while here on this show too, Locked On Spartans. No, I cannot thank you enough. Anything you want to plug here? Where can people find you this Saturday night? I'm sure it's going to be a big mystery. You want to?
Yeah, NBC, 7:30 Eastern. We start pregame is 7 o'clock. We've got Amit Fareed. We've got Joshua Perry. We've got Nicole Auerbach. We've got Chris Sims. We've got Matt Castle. And we've got Michael Robinson and Jordan Cornette. And by the way, this is a new fan favorite for everybody. Game breaks throughout the game, courtesy of John Fanta. So we are locked and loaded, courtesy of Locked On Spartans.
Wow. What a send-off right there. John Fanta in the mix. How can life get any better? Guys, well, I'll try to make it a little better here a little bit because that's right. It's the end of the week. 5 best bets coming up. We were 3-2 last week. Let's keep the ball rolling. Let's try. Thanks a lot, Noah. You're the best, man.
You got it.
All right, once again, guys, cannot thank Noah Eagle enough for his time, his insight, especially during another busy game week. That has just been sensational to have him on this show 3 times, and I cannot thank all the listeners, all the viewers that make stuff like that possible. When we're able to go to a big guest and say, hey, this is our show, this is how many people tune in, this is how many subscribers we have, and they see it, and they're like, oh, my God, there's actually people that listen to this lunatic. Sure, I'll join his show. So, guys, thank you to Noah, but also thank you all to who listen and who view this show. Now, really quick, 5 best bets to get you out the door. Last week, we did go 3-2, and it did not look good on Friday because, MSU, Jack Valley did not score a touchdown, and that's what I went with last week. I went with a prop that was plus 200. That was a little silly. And then I picked Baylor over Auburn, but on Saturday, we got rescued FAU at Maryland under 60.5. Never a doubt. There was absolutely a doubt. Ohio State versus Texas under 47.5, and then LSU over Clemson. That saved us 3-2. Let's keep it rolling, guys. Iowa State minus 3.5 over Iowa was not inspired by Mark Gronowski. I do love that the Cyclones have this game at home, as if that's ever mattered in the Cy-Hawk matchup. But, guys, I do like Iowa State because I really enjoyed what I saw from them back in Ireland. I know a lot of people said, ugly game. Jesus Christ, this is disgusting. I actually liked what I saw from Iowa State's defense, specifically in that sloppy weather game. I like Duke plus 3.5 over Illinois. I've had this one circled since the summer. I don't know. I think this is going to be one of those games where Illinois, the darling, the special surprise team that's in a lot of college football playoff projections from media, I like Illinois. I just don't like them that much. Duke plus 3.5. Texas minus 36.5 over a San Jose State team that couldn't even win outright as 14-point favorites against Central Michigan in week 1. Look, Texas, we all saw what happened last week. A lot of slander has been on the Twitter timeline and social media. A lot of people doubting Arch Griffin. And what better way to take out all your pent-up aggression than against the San Jose State Spartans. I'm going to go with under 59.5 for Arizona State at Mississippi State. Very uncomfortable environment for Arizona State, and then Mississippi State's offense, not still entirely convinced in them either. And then, guys, I got one more under for this one, and it's our game. Michigan State Boston College under 64.5. That's where I'm at right now. I do respect the Boston College defense. I think Dylan Lonergan limping at the end of the game, missing some practice, isn't nothing, along with Boston College not being able to run it against Fordham. Look, I think Michigan State's going to win this game with MSU's kicker situation being up in the air. I don't want to mess around with that spread, but I do like that this game will be low scoring, kind of like last year's game. So that's what I got, guys. Iowa State minus 3.5 over Iowa. Duke plus 3.5 over Illinois. Texas minus 36.5 over San Jose State. Under 59.5 for Arizona State and Mississippi State. And then our Spartans, their Eagles, playing to an under 46.5 game. Guys, we will be back on Saturday night after this game. It'll probably be like last week, where we just have a short reaction show right off the riff and then maybe a longer show on Sunday. That's not 100% set in stone, but regardless, you can count on hearing my voice Saturday night, probably around like midnight-ish, maybe a little after midnight. But guys, hey, until then, take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend, whether you're at the game, tailgating, watching from home, whatever it is. Just take care of yourselves. Mix in the water. I love every single one of you. Let's have a great weekend, guys. All right, guys, go green. Woo!